Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is December 17th, and right now we're looking at the infrared satellite imagery. Got Washington, Oregon to the upper right. Check out the combination of Doppler radars. We got precipitation ongoing. Some mountain snows are falling, but we have some interesting transitions coming in here as we're going to warm things up dramatically, rise those snow levels, turn things to rain and maybe some freezing rain even for some of the passes and east slopes of the Cascades. And then we have this potent frontal system back here that'll be moving right across the Pacific Northwest, across southwest BC, and bring a period of some pretty gusty winds as well, and then some westerly winds as that system moves through. And then we'll take a look at the extended forecast as always as we go through the month. Looks like we're going to remain active. Clipping just the Washington coastline, some of the Olympic Peninsula there with a thunderstorm chance today. The European showed a little blurb of a lightning threat inland here, but it should not be that big of a deal. Maybe one and done type deal. So if we take a look here at the Tempest weather station map, I selected one here for Oregon. You can see if you have your weather station up and running, you can see any advisories, warnings, or in this example, the hydrologic outlook. And you can click on that and it gives you all kinds of information, talks about our atmospheric river. And then if you go ahead and look into your stuff here, you can see, look at heavy rain is actually falling at the station as we speak. You can zoom out and you can plot all your data here. And yeah, it's very fun. You can still get this in time for Christmas. If you click on the link down below, you save 10% off as well. Highly recommend this station. So taking a look across the region, again, you can see the Doppler radar here bringing that precipitation mainly west of the Cascades. A little bit of rain shadowing going on, pretty typical there. Yakima at 35, Spokane at 33. So it looks like this is just going to be plain old rain for the lower elevations. You can see it is raining at Yakima right now. Check it out, Salem, balmy 53 degrees. We got high wind warnings along some of the coastal areas here as well. For Oregon and Washington, you can see the gale warnings in pink there, and we're going to get pretty windy across the northwest interior also. There's some wind advisories up. They may need to include some of the Puget Sound down towards Tacoma and Olympia as we go through the day today with that wind advisory, and then some gusty westerly winds as that system moves through. These winter storm warnings across the Oregon Cascades are going to be wrapping up here any minute now. Seattle National Weather Service, nice little graphic here. Store or secure loose items before strong winds. And again, they may need to bring that wind advisory down to the Puget Sound also. If I click on that, you can see right now just the hydrologic outlook. No wind advisory for Seattle, Tacoma, or Olympia yet, but they may need to put that up. Now taking a look here at the winter weather advisory. Notice this, total snow accumulations 3 to 10 inches. Then the freezing rain could start for some pass areas and places where that cold air is trapped east of the mountains. Winds gusting as high as 35 miles per hour. So if you're on the east slopes of the Cascades, and as we go through the evening, if you notice your temperature is not going above freezing, you are going to be prone to some of that freezing rain as this moves through. Initially, the snow levels around 2,500 feet are going to ramp up here probably to 7,000 or even higher for some areas. And this goes through 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. Now, taking a look at Oregon again, this winter storm warning is going to be wrapping up, but we have high wind warnings along the coastal areas, and there could be some fairly decent gusts coming up for places like Salem and Eugene up into the 40s there, and that could cause some nuisance power outages. Maybe some gusts up towards 40 miles per hour for Portland, probably somewhere in the mid 30s. However, midweek atmospheric river. So this is Spokane National Weather Service. And they do talk about snow here on Tuesday, but then they do mention the transition as well, the transition to rain by Wednesday afternoon with temps above freezing region wide. But you got to watch out for that period of freezing rain, like I mentioned, Wednesday a.m. for the eastern Cascade valleys and some wind gusts to 40 miles per hour. Now, if we take a look at the North American model, this is where we are right about now. It kind of matches what the Doppler radars were saying, some mountain snow still ongoing. But you notice as we go through this afternoon, you see that pink in there? That is freezing rain. So this afternoon, watch out if you're going across the passes into some of the valleys east of the Cascades. As the snow levels really rise as we go through late tonight into tomorrow morning, eventually scouring out some of that colder air. I mean, I don't know. Going through Wednesday morning, there's still some of that trapped in there as well. And then we get this frontal system to finally swing through the area on the day Wednesday. And then we'll take a look at what is to come after that. This only goes out 60 hours, but you can see another frontal system fairly weak approaching as we go through the day Thursday. So if we take another closer look here at the Doppler radar, again, snowfall, you can see Stampede Pass is right here, but you see some of that freezing rain showing up here. And again, it said between 1/10 and 2/10 of an inches of ice glaze could occur with that, and maybe even locally higher here as we go on in through a Tuesday night. Still some of that cold air trap. But look at this frontal system as well. This is about midnight tonight. Look at this right on the Washington, Oregon coast. Can be some blustery winds with it and some heavy precipitation also. as the system swings through as we go through Wednesday morning and gets out of our hair. But that is going to bring some big winds. I'll show you that here starting right now. This is the North American model, hot off the presses. So the winds across the Oregon coast are starting as we speak. You're going to pick up some of these gusts up over 50 miles per hour. That's creeping towards southwest Washington as we go towards the noon hour and early afternoon, and then the frontal system approaches, and you can see things really ramping up here across the Sailor Sea, some of the Strait, and down in towards the Puget Sound. Tacoma, Olympia look like you're going to get some big gusts as well, and then you can clearly see the frontal passage back here pushing down across the Washington, Oregon coast as we go through early tomorrow morning. Some very blustery winds across the Puget Sound, and then look at the westerly surge coming down the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Put that into motion again, and through Wednesday morning, we start to pick up these east winds out of the west, and that could bring some blustery conditions, 40 plus miles per hour across some portions of eastern Washington. Now, taking a look at 80-meter wind speed on the HUR, I just want to kind of compare it here. And again, you can see the wind starting today and then the frontal passage rolling through late tonight and into tomorrow morning with the strong westerly wind. So the HUR and NAM are in pretty good agreement, except some locations. They have a little bit of wind speed difference. I'll show you that here in a moment. But if we take a look at the European, again, look at this. This is by noon today. So these winds are picking up immediately. You could get gusts up over 55 miles per hour for the Washington coast. That creeps up the coastline through this afternoon. And then that strong frontal system, look at some of these gusts here on the North American model getting up towards 68 plus. It's a very intense gust. And look at Seattle, 49, Tacoma, 49, Olympia, 49, some 50s down away, maybe Spanaway as we get towards Puyallup and some of the northwest interior. This has been trending upward for some of the south down out towards some of the foothill areas as well and down the I-5 corridor. Look at Portland checking in at 43. The NAM is usually on the high end of things here, but you got to take caution because a 50 mile per hour gust towards Salem or Eugene down there would cause some power outages. And you can see across the higher terrain, across the Columbia Basin, the NAM is fairly robust with some of these wind speeds coming up here. Look at these are exceeding 50, 55 miles per hour across some portions of eastern Washington. So yeah, pretty robust system. If we take a look at the European, you'll notice it's something similar as well as we go through tomorrow morning. 45 Seattle, Olympia, Tacoma, northwest interior here, gusts up over 50 miles per hour, and it's showing some interesting gusts up across the Willamette Valley as well. I think it showed Salem with getting maybe some mid and upper 40s there. That's something to be watching for as we go through tonight. But a 60 mile per hour gust is not out of the question along the coast, according to the European. And the European tends to underdo these wind speeds. If we take a look at Salem, 47, I guess the ensemble members do have a 49 or 50 mile per hour plus gust, and the ensemble mean is into the mid 40s. Now, if we take a look at the NAM on the Seattle Metro here, you can see 47, 49 mile per hour gust, and that comes in right around midnight or maybe just after. And you can see some bands of precipitation moving through at the time, so we got to watch that. Once you start getting up towards 50, even at this point in the year, you can start to do some damage, and the HUR shows a little bit different, 42. That's a pretty noticeable difference here. You wouldn't think it would be 49 versus 42, but it is a fairly substantial difference with the pressure wind force and the difference of those gusts. So Olympia, 49, also on the North American model, and look at Hoquiam. You're approaching 60 miles per hour through 1 a.m. That's bound to wake some people up. Astoria, look at that, 62 showing up at 1 a.m. with that frontal passage as well. Now, if we take a wider look at things here, this is the GFS, hot off the press of the 12Z run. So as we go through tonight, you see the pressure gradient right there, and then you see the low kind of passing pretty close right across western Washington. And it doesn't look like much, but again, it's all about that pressure gradient, and then you get a bit of a pressure rise behind that as well. So it's going to be pretty close proximity. That's why it's going to kick up the winds here across the area. It doesn't look like a very strong low, of course. It's like 1,005, 1,003 millibars or something like that. But anyway, it's going to pack a bit of a punch tonight. And then we go on in through Thursday, another frontal system there. You can see additional systems trying to spread some precipitation there. And we do get a bit of a break, it looks like, at least from some of the heavy precipitation, until we get towards this weekend. Another strong low kind of moves by here. Another frontal system passes there. And then it looks like maybe some atmospheric river potential as we go through the 22nd. We'll continue to watch that. Additional very strong low pressure centers move towards the region. Look at this 950 monster just south of Haida Gwaii off the coast of Vancouver Island. Potent frontal system there. We'd have to watch for secondary low development to the south of that. And yeah, so you can see as we go on in through Christmas Eve, and then look at that Christmas afternoon, another atmospheric river for you. How about that? And then another strong low moving up towards Haida Gwaii on the 26th. So very active weather incoming here, and then maybe we'll finally get a break towards the end of the month, but no promises on that. That's way too far out. So total precipitation in inches on the European ensemble. I want to go through this. This is the ensemble as of yesterday afternoon. So you can see by the time we get towards Wednesday morning, it's painting for Seattle about 2 inches here, a little bit less for Portland, but still pretty good amounts across the Olympics and some of the Cascades. That's why those hydrologic concerns are up. And then we get a little bit of a break here, but as we go towards the weekend, you notice actually, here we go. We're on Saturday morning now. And as we go through the weekend, we start to pile things up a bit again here. We're over 3 inches by Monday morning for Seattle. And of course, you can see much higher across Vancouver Island and some of the coastal ranges. But as we scroll off out towards, we're now into Christmas night, and then we go off into the end of December, the European is just kind of relentless here. I mean, you're talking about 7 inches of precipitation here for Seattle by the time you get towards the end of the month. And look at some of these pegged to scale, close to 20 inches. Take that with a grain of salt here, but just kind of showing you the potentially wet pattern as we go through the second half of December here. Now, looking at total precipitation on the artificial intelligence European, we'll just kind of scroll through here as well, and you'll kind of get the gist that the European artificial intelligence is in large agreement. Here we go through December 27th, and we go towards the end of the year. So let's go ahead and go towards where we would be. That's about the end of the month coming up. It shows over 7.5 for Seattle, and just some huge amounts here across the region. So I want to show the avalanche forecast here because there is some high that would include some amount right near. You can see Snoqualmie Pass will be considerable, and some of the areas further north considerable as well. Look at Mount Hood is that high because we're going to have this warm up that comes as we go through tonight and into tomorrow morning. So that could trigger some of this avalanche issues. And if I click ahead here, this is Snoqualmie Pass, for example. Look at this morning and afternoon. Just below pass level, at pass level. And then look at Tuesday night, 7,500 feet. Moderate to heavy snow changing to freezing rain, and then rain, a moderate ridgeline and light and moderate east wind at the pass. So the winds shouldn't be too big of a deal here. Maybe some gusty winds as we go through overnight for some exposed areas. But again, the big snow level rise here is the concern. And they do a nice forecast discussion here as well. So yeah, here we go. Tuesday night won't be a night for winter camping. Simultaneously freezing rain will likely occur at lower elevations there, and then it will finally limit the avalanche hazard for some of those areas. Anyway, so taking a look here at the landslide potential, this is the forecast here, these lightly shaded ones. And as we go through this month, I have a hunch we're going to be exceeding some of this. The bottom axis here is 15-day cumulative precipitation prior to 3-day precipitation in inches. And this is 3-day cumulative precipitation in inches. So once you start to get to the right of this red line, you start to worry about landslides. And this is for the Puget Sound area. So you could probably use the same graphic here for places like the Willamette Valley here as well, and maybe up towards Bellingham and whatnot. But yeah, we're going to have multiple rounds of systems coming through here as we go through the second half of December. I also want to show the wave machine out across Pacific Ocean. Japan is to the left. There's Washington, Alaska, and Hawaii bottom center. So we're getting a pretty good bump with this system as we go through tonight and into tomorrow morning. So be careful out there. On through the month of December, be very careful because we're going to have multiple rounds of big wave action. You can see we remain elevated all the way through the upcoming period. And look at this ridiculousness here as we scroll off. Let me back that up a little bit there. But max wave, I think that's the highest max wave I've ever seen, 101.8 out there. Who knows how accurate this model is, but it's very impressive that we just have this huge area of wave generation. Of course, that's based on time and wind speed and direction, and yeah, so we're going to have multiple rounds of wave action here for the Pacific Northwest and the West Coast of North America, and some ridiculous sizes showing up here as we go through about December 23rd, getting really close to the coast as well. So I did want to show that. So if I take a look at the same map here, this is 10-meter wind speed streamline knots. So this is just sustained wind speed in knots. And you can clearly see why the wave generation will be so extreme. Just persistent, strong winds ripping across the Pacific Ocean, spreading those large waves back across the west coast and into the Gulf of Alaska. I mean, look at this monster storm out here. You're talking about sustained wind gusts. You know, that's 73 knots. That's hurricane force sustained out there with this storm system. So pretty impressive. Some of these storms that have been showing up in some of these recent model runs, and you can kind of play that through. Actually, let's take a look at that secondary one here. Look at some of these sustained winds and the bent back occlusion of that storm there, approaching 90 knots, just sustained wind. So pretty ridiculous. And then it gets closer to the Pacific Northwest. Here is a strong low up into the Gulf of Alaska. Now, taking a look at the jet stream, you got Japan to the left, you got Washington to the right. So as you can see, we're being targeted by this jet stream here over the next few days, and that's going to continue on. Storms developing again right off our coastline there, spreading these frontal systems back into the area. Atmospheric river potential, we got windstorm potential, you name it, we got it here across Pacific Northwest. And look at this on Christmas Day, this jet stream all the way across the Pacific Ocean right into Washington State. If you got an airgram you want to send up in the air from Japan and let it ride through the jet stream, if you can get it to 39,000 feet, it would be the time to do it here as you go through Christmas Eve. If you want to drop a note from somebody, if you're out there across Japan, imagine getting in a jet there too. You'd save a lot of time going from Japan to Seattle. And on a side note of that, let me back this back up to Christmas. You can see the dispatchers definitely be avoiding this jet stream heading back towards Japan. But you have the Great Circle route, which are usually on anyway, so that wouldn't be too much of a deal. But yeah, you can really pick up some time coming back across the Pacific Ocean. Now, taking a look at snow depth here. So I want to play this through as we go through tonight. You can notice that we do lose some of the snowpack here with the rising of that snow level. Hopefully it's not going to be too bad. This is the 12Z European. This is hot off the presses. So yeah, you can kind of see that. Not great, you know, with the rise in the snow level here. And if I back that up, you can kind of see what fell yesterday across some of the lower elevations of eastern Washington. That should be melting away as we go through tomorrow morning, no doubt. And on a side note here, let's go ahead and do this. Since this is the 12Z European model run, we're going to go to surface wind, we're going to go to wind gust swath, and we're going to back up here and see what the latest. I've not looked at the latest here. Looks like 43, the last one for Seattle. So a little bit of a downgrade there, 43 for Tacoma Olympia, but still some very strong winds incoming for like Bellingham. And again, the European tends to underdo these a bit. And the Willamette Valley, you could get some lower mid 40s showing up also. And again, strongest winds probably on the coast there. So yeah. 6 to 10 day above average for much of the west and central portions of the country, should be no surprise. And look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 70 to 80% chance of above average precipitation during this time frame. Here's the 8 to 14 day, virtually the entire lower 48 for Christmas Eve through Christmas and the end of the year above average. Not much chance of a white Christmas here across Pacific Northwest for lower elevations, virtually zero. 8 to 14 day, you can clearly see the above average here again as well. Now, this is the experimental product. They have the risk of heavy precipitation Christmas Eve through the end of the year. Look at this, moderate risk for some heavy precip, all the way down to central California. That would include western British Columbia as well. And then we take a look at some risk of heavy snow. Hey, can we get some snow back in here as we go on in through, Christmas Eve, through the day after Christmas? We'll see how that goes. But it's nice to see that on the experimental product. And the risk of high winds is also going to be apparent here across the Pacific Northwest. You saw some of those big low pressure systems moving fairly close to the coastline. So anyway, wrap this up here. Get this video out to you guys. Hopefully you guys are having a good day. I'm going to go walk the dog here in this rainfall that is occurring out there. And it's going to continue on in through tonight and on into tomorrow morning. Again, the snow levels are really going to be rising tonight. Watch out for that freezing rain, and we'll break this all down again tomorrow. Hope you guys are having a good day, and I will talk to you guys then.